Well, we're going to be doing some live readings in a little while, and we're going to start with the Astrodoodle. just check in here. See. Hi, Tina. Oh, okay. Thank you, Tina. I'll just go. Yay. Got it. Super duper. Thanks, Tina. Super duper. Alright, let's see what we can do here tonight. Okay, I'm just still clicking around, setting everything up. I should be pretty ready to go. I don't think there's hardly anybody here, Tina, except you and me right now. I don't know, let's have a see. Yeah, I think that's about it. How funny. It might be just you and me just doing one reading. That's it. Okay, so. Oh, you know what? I probably forgot. I know I did forget. I forgot to send out the little reminder emails on my constant contact system. Damn. Anyway, let's check in. And we'll go back to the Astrodoodle in a few minutes, okay? Let's just hang out for a little bit, okay? Let's see how this works. Hi, Tina. So how is it up there over in Montana right now? It's getting really not just warm here. In a week from now, we're going to be hitting 90. It's crazy. It's not even April yet. I don't get it. Well, I do get it. There's so-called climate change. Yep. Cheers, Tina. Thanks for dropping by. It feels really strange when I look at the chat and I don't see Ivona. Ivona Kokolka. She's been with the channel since the very beginning. And I don't think she's ever missed a show in 4 years. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 4.5 years. There you go. Something has you excited. Okay. I'm feeling very, very spacey at the moment. It's a lot of it is to do with okay, once immigration is lifted, I want to host a Ukraine family. It's in the 50s. Oh, that's very noble of you, Tina. I have a friend in England. He's going through the process right now to make his home available. I think he can take in one refugee. I'm not sure. It depends. It's, you know, everything is being fast-tracked. I don't really know how it all works, how they're going to do it. It's been very interesting. I mean, I don't want to be morbid, you know, Tina, because the whole world is watching the Ukraine thing, and part of me feels like, well, what's the difference between now and the last 60, 70, 80 years? 90 years. Since 1912, 1913, it's just been war, continuous war. They called it World War I, and then things kind of died down for a bit. And there were lots of minor skirmishes in Europe, and that turned into World War II. And then after World War II, everything migrated into the so-called Cold War between East and West, most especially USA and Russia. And then they had the Vietnam thing, the Korea thing, and then they had all these like insurgencies in Africa and Central America and South America. They had the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then they had all the Middle East wars. And that's been going on for 22 years or something. And those Middle East wars, they go all the way over into the Ishtan nations. Let me just show you on the map. I know you're fascinated. Okay. Sarah, hello Sarah over there in Benghazi, Libya. Greetings. Yeah, so yes, Tina, you're absolutely right. There are parallels to absolute parallels. So right now, of course, all the action is over here. There's Ukraine, right? And they've got 40 million people there, so that's not a small place, okay? And Russia has about 160 million. It's a very ugly, very, very dirty war. But there's also tremendous amount of military activity with the United States in these areas here, but you don't really hardly ever see anybody or anything talking about it, because it's kind of embarrassing the way I see it. America has vast amounts of military resources in this area because there is so much oil. There you go. The American military basically works for the oil companies. Oh, hello Gregory. Howdy. Hello Jeffrey. Hello Sarah again. Yeah. Like many people, like many people, I have been watching the Ukraine situation from afar, and it's very tragic. It's very, very disturbing. It's very frightening as well. Okay. No, I saw that little snip of news, Tina. To me, it feels very, very strange. I'm just your average American citizen. I feel like I'm just one of several billion. You have to realize there's 7.5 billion people who live here, and at least 2 billion or 3 billion are fully aware of the conflict that's going on here. And I guarantee everywhere on Earth, every single economy on Earth, New Zealand, Australia, China, India, all over Africa, all over Central and South America, all over Canada, all over Western Europe, all over the Ishtans in the Middle East, they are all being affected by this war. The bloodshed is happening here, of course. It's an extremely dirty, ugly war. There's no grace to this at all. It is literally brute violence and bloodlust, okay? And on a larger scale, we've been building up to this. Some people are hesitating to say World War III, but I do see it as World War III. But it's unconventional in that and this sounds awful because I'm pointing at the United States, but the United States is the ultimate perpetrator because we use the American dollar as an extremely powerful asymmetric weapon. And we have, let's say, undermined millions of people all across the earth by manipulating our currency and going into these resource wars. And since the Ukraine thing started and they went into the sanctions, one of the most, I would say, influential weapons was were the sanctions and the shutting down of Russia from the global banking system. Russia boosted its interest rates 20%, so the whole of the Russian population is in deep stress right now. Western Europe is in deep stress because even though gas and oil is already, and petrol is already, and gasoline is very expensive already, it's going to get even more expensive. And you know what happens when things get so expensive? People start to act out. It's already happening all over the world, everywhere. Here. People are starting to act out against the shocking price rises in petrol, natural gas, oil, and that's not going to stop. And there are secondary side effects that are happening as well. With the shortages in wheat and fertilizer and oils like cooking oils and things like that. I guess it all kind of depends on what kind of news sources you follow, if you follow any of them at all, if you're interested in any of this. You don't have to be. But there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. And to me, it's understandable because it's so obvious in the charts. It's been building up for years. And Love Triber mentioned something I thought was very significant the other day. She was mentioning that, America has its Pluto return. We're dealing with that right now. 248 years ago, or whatever it was, 1776. And here we are again. Pluto return. It's all happening again. Massive wars and the demand for freedom, the demand to be released from oppression and monarchies, evil dictatorships, evil totalitarian regimes, all of that. It's very, very loud. The message is very loud. The storyline is very loud, and it's resonating all over the earth. And Love Triber likes to watch news things as well, and tarot and astrology and things. She said she found a lady who mentioned that, by the way, the United States isn't the only country that has a Pluto return. Well, same thing with everybody. Every single person has a Pluto return, but we'll never see it because we don't live that long. But other countries, yes, they have their Pluto return. It's just a question of how significant is the Pluto aspect in their astrology. In the United States, when you look at the astrology of the United States, Pluto is really fundamental to the nature of America. It represents power, control, leadership, management to the extreme. And we've taken it to the extreme where it's now abuse of power, abuse of control, abuse of management. And that shows up in the banking world and the big corporatocracies that have spread all across planet Earth. And many of them are headquartered or based in America or Western Europe. They all work as a cartel. And they want to keep it that way. So they are trying to ratchet up the pressure to keep going more and more towards this one world system, this world government with a single solitary ruler leader running everything like a kingdom. To me, it's insanity. But that's how a lot of places used to run before the United States came along. The United States was the very first place to enshrine the whole concept of sovereignty of self, the rights to freedom, self-expression, all those things that we have in our Constitution. Okay. Interesting, TL. Where were we, you and me, at our last Pluto return? Let's see. Our Pluto returns would have been about... Well, I guess I've got one coming up in about 120 years, 140 years, something like that. Wait a minute, no. My next Pluto return is about 180 years from now. Probably the same for you, Gregory. So I have no idea. No comment. It's, again, another reason why I believe the American Pluto return is so significant is because what we now know as America, as the United States, was the first organized group of people on Earth that had ever organized things in a way that's upside down to the traditional structure of kings and queens and lords and gods and rulers. Egyptian gods, emperors, Chinese emperors, Roman emperors, monarchs, kings and queens. Everything on Earth in terms of society used to be modeled on those extremely hyper-pyramidal structures, okay, where there's a single monarchical entity at the top, like an emperor, a king, a god, a dictator, and they control everything. And the Americans back in the day, they said, you know what, this sucks. It doesn't work. We're going to flip it around. we are going to so-called elect our leaders, and they're going to work for us, we the people. And of course, King George of England didn't like that. And so he sent on barbaric attacks into America to try and slaughter the American rebels. It didn't work. It all backfired. There was a lot of bloodshed. But eventually, the British retreated, and they realized we can't win this war. We can't win a war where people are willing to die for the cause and for the belief system of freedom. At that point, the British were just pouring in, armies of conscripts. It was a losing situation. Now, of course, the other weird thing about our astrology, about almost any living thing, is that the moment we're born, we're already heading towards the end of our life. Hopefully, you have a splendid, enjoyable life, but it is a journey. And it goes in waves and cycles. I've had a very, very bumpy life, I would say. Some people have a very, let's say, smooth, there's an even trajectory, you could say. And it's different for everybody. But with the United States and Pluto in Capricorn at that 27 degrees, heavily marked by Mercury in Cancer, 27 degrees, both planets retrograde, you could see that's a perfect setup for business and finance and communications and commerce to essentially kind of grind away and work at each other in such a way that you bring out the best in each other, but simultaneously it's always possible to slip back into the worst of each other. And so that's what happened in the United States. As far as I can tell, even in the first 60, 100 years, 7,500 years of American history, there were groups of people who wanted to undermine the Constitution because they thought this sucks. We want to have our power back. Old-fashioned leaders, they like being in absolute control. They love having absolute power, absolute wealth, absolute control over the armies, the people, the food, the resources, the banking, everything. In America, it's very, very different. Everything became independent and self-oriented. We are a republic of today's 50 states, and they all operate in a very highly independent way. And then there's the federal government, which is basically supposed to be like an overseer, just to sort of represent us on the global scale, for legal, financial, commercial purposes. And now it's become so highly corrupted. What's that expression? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that's Pluto in Capricorn, 27 degrees. When you think of Pluto, think of power. Think of absolute power. Think of brutal, raw power on the one side, and think of the healing power of love on the other side. Either way, it's power. So it's a question of how do you express and share that power. In the United States, sadly, we have diminished ourselves to this point where we are grotesquely in debt. We've become the most egregious abuser of the banking system, and we have done to many places and people in the world what a lot of us in America accuse other places of doing, like hegemony, trying to impose our system, the imperial empire of America. And for a lot of places that doesn't work. It works when you have healthy commerce and trade and it's mutually beneficial. But in some situations, like with oil, gasoline, it's a different story. It's amazing how much blood has been shed in order to protect the rights for American gasoline and oil. It's mind-boggling. Yeah. So we're seeing it. What's interesting to me is that we're seeing it all displayed on the global stage. You cannot not see what's happening. If you switch on your phone or a TV or a radio, depending on who, the kind of person you are, where you live, life you live, you can't help but see what's happening on the global stage. Anyway, I'm going to get myself in trouble again if I talk too much about this, so I'll probably get off of it. I could talk a lot worse, a lot darker things about all this, but again, I'll just get into trouble. Let's have a look over here. So, Tina Miller says over here, I was told by an astrologer that I was a leader that was not very nice to the common folks. And this is why my present life has been so challenging. Well, let's not just say Tina, but all of us. My personal beliefs are that we've all been here before. I personally happen to believe in reincarnation, and I've had plenty of life events or experiences where I've been privileged to so-called see ahead or see the past. Woo, and sometimes my biggest challenge is staying in the present, where I'm not all dissociated and out there floating around in the universe. Tina, I totally understand what that astrologer says. I've had some very, very specific stories conveyed to me by a really, really top-level powerful astrologer that had a similar theme to it, where in a particular past life, I was a high-level military advisor to a very successful ancient warrior leader. And in that regard, even though I might have been very good back then as a military advisor, being successful in those, times of conquering other worlds and creating new empires, the chances are that would have resulted in death and pain and suffering and misery for a lot of people that I never even got to see. I know that I have lived probably multiple lifetimes where I have been on the receiving end of some very, very harsh experience. Some of it might feel very, pointed and particular. Some of it might just feel random, like being born into extreme poverty or something like that, and then just having to survive a whole life in poverty, nonstop, from beginning to end. And there are still billions of people on Earth who live like that. So it's not like I'm, recanting anything unusual in terms of a story. We've all had our ups and downs. That's how I look at it. We've all had certain lifetimes where we expressed the very best version of ourselves, and other lifetimes where we've expressed the very worst version of ourselves. And it's kind of a growth process. It's kind of evolution. There's biological evolution, our bodies, our heads, our brains, our organs, our physiology. And then there's the parallel evolutionary story of our spirit, of our soul, which to me is actually, in a way, much more significant. All right, let's have a look here. Oh, so I'm just checking in the chat. Hold on, folks. Just checking in. Good to see you, by the way. Who else did I see who was here? There's Tina. Oh, I'm just saying. Jeffrey, there's Jeffrey. Hi, Jeffrey. Hanging in there, right? All right, let's have a look. I just want to check something. I'm just doing some checkups here. Finding out. All right, okay, we got all that. All right, good enough. All right, let me go over here. Clickety-click. I'm just zooming around the different softwares, doing all the, clickety-click stuff. So let's run over here for a moment. Okay, so here's the moon, zooming along every 2.5 days like it does, just like clockwork. We just had the full moon a few days ago. I'm sure some of you saw it. The moon was in like 29 degrees Virgo, opposite the sun, 29 degrees Pisces. The sun, I believe it is today. It's actually today that the sun has crossed into Aries now. So it's like a new vibe energy. So we're going to have roughly 30 days while the sun moves through Aries, and then it'll be in Taurus, of course. Meanwhile, we still have Neptune, Jupiter, and Mercury in Pisces. So when I see Jupiter conjoining Neptune like this, to me it expands everything good or bad about the potential energy. So like when you see it on the world stage, we're seeing this incredible global outpouring of sympathy and empathy for the people of Ukraine. It's unconditional love. There are people who are volunteering. Okay, the volunteering aspect is over here. Very serious Aquarian energy of volunteering in time of war. Now, the tragic shadow side here is that we're seeing the depravity. We are witnessing the very, very lowest and worst forms of human behavior, amplified many times over in the way that these people here, in this little place over here, well, it's a big place, it's called Ukraine. Ukraine is probably bigger than Texas, but it's that kind of scale. It's at least the size of Texas. And they got 40 million people. And they're being slaughtered. They are literally being slaughtered. The Ukrainian soldiers are doing an incredibly good job of resisting the abuser. But what's happening here is sort of like an extremely ugly pit bull fight or cockfight or some kind of illegal animal fight. But it went public and now everybody's watching from the side. Nobody in here with NATO and the European Union and over here has made the decision to do anything about stopping the thuggery that's going on. The thing is, the fellow who's running this war on this side, the fellow over here, Vladimir, there's two Vladimirs involved, but this Vladimir over here is resorting to the deepest, darkest, ugliest forms of human behavior to get his point across, to get what he wants. He wants this place, and he wants to scare the poop out of everybody over here. And he's doing a really, really good job, but he's meeting with intense resistance. So it's literally like a thug is attacking someone. I was watching something where the Ukrainians knew this was going to happen at some point, and they've been preparing themselves, but still it's very hard to compete or fight successfully against this vast army here. And the way I see it is that because of the extreme wealth and abundance of Western Europe, the United States, and everything that we have invested with each other, including Ukraine, we're so used to the comforts of the good life that there's huge resistance to actually go to war and put soldiers on the ground and fighter jets in there, because that means we now have blood on our hands. Well, we already have blood on our hands. A lot of this has been building up for decades. And honestly, this is going to sound pretty awful. I can't predict the future. I can give ideas and thoughts about where things could head, where things could go. And it was very clear several months ago that with Mars conjoining Pluto and then moving into in Capricorn and then moving into the Aquarius reign, it's war. I was telling Love Tribe the other day, we're looking at World War III. I know you're not supposed to say that because people are like, don't say that. They'll figure it out. The way I see it, it is World War III because every single country on earth is affected by this battle in Ukraine. Ukrainians are begging for real life help. When they mean real life help, they want fighter jets with bombs and ammo. That's what they want. Because if they can bring those fighter jets in from Poland, backed up by the United States, they could shut down the war. I have personal views that there are certain people very, very high up who want this war to continue. Because there's a lot of very ugly, dirty secrets that are buried and that are getting buried in this Ukraine war crisis. And that's helping the certain people and family who, who were actually exploiting their population for personal benefit. It's really squalid what's going on. It's like watching illegal, like I said, like pit bullfights, cockfights, bullfights, where the whole idea is for the perpetrator, they want blood. They want death, they want blood. They want absolute control or power. They want total obliteration of the opponent. And most of us here are just watching from the sidelines. You know, I sip my wine while I'm watching things on YouTube. And at that very moment in time, people are being killed and slaughtered on both sides of the war. And I'm doing this. Ooh, wow, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's really, really bad. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Cheers. It's very disturbing. It's very interesting to me how this particular war is taking such a huge chunk of global media compared to what's happening over in Kazakhstan, Pakistan, and parts of Africa, where there's lots of war and death and killing. Personally, I'm just going to give you my personal view right now. If I was one of those people, if I was in a position to do so, I would say, excuse me, step aside, please. I am the president of this place called America. Enough is enough. Here. Let's go back to Poland. Here, Poland. Here's 20 fighter jets with all the ammo you could ever want. Send your MiGs over to Ukraine. They've got the pilots already in Ukraine. Then Ukrainians can take care of themselves. This way, all the rest of us in Western Europe and America can sit by and watch while Ukraine actually does the killing and there's Ukrainian blood, but we don't actually have to get dirty. But at least we're doing something. Right now, American is throwing in all these ammo and bullets and stingers and javelins, and that helps. Sure, it really, really helps. It's not enough. It's not anywhere near enough. I'm gonna get in trouble. I better. Hello, necessary. Oh yeah, that's already happening. Putin is very aware that he's a target. There's people who try to take him out every day, I'm sure. I don't know. We'll see. Most of the people that I watch on YouTube with these alternate sources and alternate media, which I consider much more trustworthy than the mainstream, they have become really good experts at using the correct language so their shows don't get shut down. I have not learned how to do that very well. So I think I'm going to just kind of like back off a little bit now, okay, if you don't mind. Let's have a look over here. What did I... Oh, yeah. Sorry, I got distracted again like I do. So, yeah. Over here we have Mars in Aquarius, conjoined Venus. So it's a dirty war. Saturn is in Aquarius. So this is like, it's turning into what they're calling a war of attrition. It started over here when Mars was in Capricorn about, several months ago. Mars was here. And then right there, when Mars was conjoined with Pluto, 27 degrees, that's when the war actually got extremely violent and bloody and went mainstream, okay? Here we are. A few weeks later, Mars is now in Aquarius. So Mars in Aquarius is very, very much about the fight for freedom. Not just personal freedom, but for freedom. The belief system, the rights to freedom. Mars in Aquarius is a freedom fighter. Ukraine essentially is in the embodiment of freedom fighters. And Ukraine is attracting a lot of volunteer, Aquarius, volunteer freedom fighters from around the world who have enough time and energy and skill and weapons and resources to literally just fly into Western Europe, then take a train or a bus or whatever and go to Ukraine and check in with the military leaders in Ukraine and say, help me, show me where I can go. There's a guy from Canada. He's one of the #1 sniper fighters on Earth. He's extremely successful, and he is now operating inside Ukraine to help the Ukrainians. So this is the embodiment of war here, and this is going to drag on for months. Please understand. Then when Mars gets into Pisces and conjoins Jupiter and Venus, I think we're going to see how this is all going to escalate across the world. It's going to just spill over. I see it as the spilling of blood and the spilling of more and more human resources. Now, it could get so ugly during this period here where Mars goes from here to here, where there are some kind of negotiations or some type of ceasing of the slaughter. Because right now it's a full-on slaughter. Okay, there's just dead bodies everywhere, blood everywhere, men, women, and children. It is truly obscene what is happening, but this is war. There's nothing noble about this war at all. It's on display to the whole of humanity, how ugly it is. So we're seeing the very, very, very worst of human behavior right now being displayed. It's been building up for years. It made a crescendo here starting on January 2020. Here we are 2 years later. It's getting very violent and ugly, and this is going to drag on for a few more years. Now, in that time, the other planets are going to zoom around, but eventually Pluto in 2024 is going to be sitting right here. So we're going to have a 20-year journey all about freedom for humanity. So in a way, the show has just begun, It's going to be a long and bumpy road as humanity reformats itself. But that's how we learn, that's how we grow. We see the most despicable, ugly sides of humanity, and we all share in that in some way. And also at the same time, we're going to figure out, because we have to, how are we going to deal with this? I don't know. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's going to be a realignment or a reformatting of the United States, but there's the other aspect, the very dark shadow aspect of the Aquarius Pisces energy here. It's what we're talking about is one world government, okay? Complete global communism, globalized totalitarianism, globalized one ruler type of situation. That to me is absolutely terrifying. But that is what is being constructed here. At the same time, some of us are aware of that, and there's some of us who are going to say, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. We reserve the right to be our own sovereign selves, and we will resist, we will rebel. Now, over this 20-year journey here, Mars will enter Aquarius every 2.5 years. So there's going to be like 6 or 8 journeys, up until, let's see, 20, 22, 32, 40, 2045 or something. There are going to be about 8 periods during that time over the next 25 years. Let's put it this way. Over the next 25 years, there's going to be roughly 8 particular moments when Mars is going to conjoin Pluto. And that's when things are going to get very violent, okay? Openly violent. I'm just stating, okay? That's just how it is, okay? So please be prepared. I hope you're all doing a little bit of prepping and looking into your finances, your health, your friends and family, looking into what the hell can you do to prepare for this. Because this is coming. It's already here. It's been building up for years. We're now in it. And this episode in human history is going to drag on for about 24 years. 22, 24 years. There's a good chance that all of us are going to live through this, and we're going to witness this, and we're going to end up sharing stories. God knows. Maybe YouTube will keep going on for that long. Maybe the channel will keep going. I have no idea. We'll see. I hope I didn't scare anybody. We're okay. We're good. Protect your money. Protect your privacy. Protect yourself. And then number 1, love thyself. All right, let's have a look here. Oh, Tina, you got a good thing. Why must Ukraine be sacrificed before anyone does anything? I think in such brutal terms about this huge historical moment in human evolution, it's about the process of reflection. You know how sometimes when I do private readings, especially if it involves relationship, we talk about this concept where reflection is in some ways the most valuable component of the relationship. You being a mirror to someone else and someone else being a mirror to you. And that happens most evidently when you have sun opposite sun, or when you have a relationship that is deliberately constructed in what we would see like a marriage, for example. There's a reason why not every marriage is successful. It's because it's actually really, really difficult. It's a lot of work to maintain a relationship at optimal levels. What often happens is that people start what they think is a good project us, project you, project me, I dig you, you dig me. And then they discover very, very quickly that, what did I think we were doing? What did you think we were doing? What's actually happening here? And sometimes things get really, really ugly because one party or the other party can no longer tolerate the reflection of themselves that they're getting back from the other person. Everything that they think is bad about the relationship is blamed on the other person. And then the other person, for them, everything that's bad about the relationship is this person's fault. And you're basically building a time bomb or quicksand, whichever way you want to look at it. And so to answer your question, Tina, the way I see it is Ukraine is like a sacrificial lamb. It's happening on the global stage. We are witnessing live in real time, globally, through all the social media, whether it's censored and filtered or not. The storylines are being exposed. And we are seeing the most disgusting evil displays of human behavior. Simultaneously, we are seeing some of the most beautiful displays of loving behavior by, I would say, the volunteers and the humanitarian aid that is pouring in from all over the world. We're seeing both sides. And when you get to be a witness to all of this, then you end up seeing or feeling that yourself, well, oh my gosh, where do I stand in this? I'm on the side of the bad guys. Oh, no, that's terrible. I'm on the side of the good guys. You know, the bad guys think they're good. They're doing what they believe is their right, their God-given right to be who they are. And they're using extreme violence and completely disregarding anything to do with the subject of what you would call compassion or love or caring. It's completely hollow. It's interesting because love is everywhere. We're swimming in it all the time. We are permanently swimming in an ocean of love. But a lot of the time we're not aware of it because we're actually in it. You know, think of the little fishies here. Have you heard that expression? The little fish went up to the scuba diver and said, "Hey, listen, Mr. Scuba Diver, I've seen you here before. Can you tell me, what is this thing called water? I keep hearing about it. What is it?" And the scuba diver says, "Are you nuts? You're a fish. You're swimming in it. You're living in it all the time. Look around you. Everything that you see that's not another fish or a coral reef, that's water. You're swimming in it. That's the source. That is the source." It's the same with human beings and the healing power of love. It's there all the time, all around us. The question is, are you tuned in? Are you accessing it? Are you aware of it? Are you allowing the healing power of love to flow into your life from up above? And if so, are you willing to be an instrument of the healing power of love? There you go. It's one way to look at things. Most of us, of course, are just concerned with our own biological needs. I'm hungry. Oh, I want to get laid. Oh, I want money. Oh, I want power. Whatever it is. Okay, let's have a look over here. Hold on. Projects aren't partnerships. Thank you, Necessary Truth. So I think going back to your point, Tina, why must Ukraine be sacrificed before anyone does anything? My feeling is that this has never really happened in human history before, where we have had a major assault happening in real time as we speak. There have been iterations like the Middle East wars, but the level of coverage was much more, let's say, contained and controlled and limited. These days, with things like Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, all those things, and YouTube, the war is happening in real time. And so I think the reason Ukraine is effectively being sacrificed, it's because we're going in slow motion, where we're realizing something has to happen before we do anything. And before we do anything, we have to learn about ourselves first. The Ukrainians are right there. They're finding out about it already. You either attack the enemy or you die. If you attack the enemy, you're going to put your own life at risk. So that's what's happening in Ukraine. And the blood message coming out to the rest of the world is, are you ready to take up arms and fight for your life, fight for your freedom? And when I say are you, I'm pointing to people in Africa, Central America, South America, Western Europe, the Middle East, India, China. Are you willing to stand up and fight to claim your sovereign self? Are you willing to die for that? The last time that happened in history was the formation of the United States, the Wars of Independence, and ultimately the Declaration of Independence, and a few years later the creation of the Constitution. Since then, the message has gone all over the world that there is this thing called freedom. And now it is a really big deal. But freedom is the enemy of tyranny. Okay? Just like real honest money is the enemy of fake money. All the people at the top of that pyramid, they prosper through fake money and through tyranny. We, the people, we prosper through honesty and real money. I want the real stuff. I want my freedom. I want real money. I don't want the tyranny. I don't want to be part of that beast system. Ugh. We're all living in it. Everything, everywhere on earth is contaminated by that thing. Okay? Call it the pyramid of power if you want, something like that. Everywhere is contaminated to some degree. And people are starting to wake up and realize that. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? In Ukraine, it's very obvious. Those who are ready, willing, and able to take up arms and defend themselves and their family and their country, that's what they're doing. They're willing to die, and some of them are dying. A lot of the Russian soldiers are being forced into the war, and they don't want to die. They don't want to do the killing, but they're forced to do it, because if they don't, they will be executed on sight by the commanders, or they will be executed when they get back to Russia. So a lot of the Russian soldiers don't have an option, because they live under a complete totalitarian tyranny. So it sounds really cliched, but it's turning into a really simple thing. It's good versus evil. Where do you stand? Pick a side. There are people who are running the United States right now who refuse to pick a side. They're trying to make it look like they do, but they're not. Because there's some very shadowy stuff going on in there. To me, it's really, really simple, because I'm at the very, very lowest bottom end of the pyramid, okay? We the people way down here, okay? The problems come from up there, but we the people are down here. I can't do much to help the Ukrainians directly. There's very little that I can do. My friend Philip is in a position to do so. So he's considering it. I don't think he's signed the papers yet. Hello, Somewhere in Time Tarot. I know you've been here before. Okay. Oh yeah, there was a ringing. So there was a telephone ringing. Don't worry, in the background. Yes, there was a telephone. Yeah. Thank you very much for pointing that out. All right. Yes, Somewhere in Time. Unfortunately, Canada is in a very, very dire situation. Some of you already know Precious Moments, all right? For example, Precious Moments is essentially a victim of this situation. The mandates that were enforced in Canada forced Precious Moments out of her job as a professional nurse. Okay? A professional nurse is a highly respected, fairly, respectably paid. Probably not enough, but certainly it's a real job. And she had a house, and she has 3 kids, and one of the kids is disabled. And now, because of the mandates, she cannot go back to work, and so she has become homeless, and she's now in a shelter, reaching out, hoping that she can get support to survive the next few months. I believe the shelter is a church of some kind, and they give her, a safe place to sleep, and she probably has access to a shower and a bathroom. But there's very little, maybe some meals, but that's about it. And where Precious Moments was living, it had to be shut down because of dilapidation and black mold. It's very sad. And it's all going into the court right now. But in the meantime, Precious Moments is suffering. Is a classic example of the suffering of from the tyranny. It didn't have to be that way. Oh, man. It's funny, like, every day across planet Earth, there are stupendous, loving, beautiful, miraculous stories that display love in its essence. Every day, there's just the opposite. Spectacular stories that display the worst of humanity. For some reason or other, a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, brought it up that there is this dark, ugly, kind of embarrassing taboo about human nature, in that there's a certain percentage of us, up to a certain degree, where what's called bloodlust is very hard to switch off. It is very, very animal. It's extremely primal when somebody that you love ends up bloody and maimed because of someone else. If someone that you love is abused or killed, or whatever it is, a mass shooting or a car crash, it's very, very disturbing. If you've ever been in situations where you witness that kind of savagery or accidental savagery, it triggers very, very, very powerful animal, reactions, responses in our body. And people kind of can't control their emotions. And so it's one of the things about the military, is that they constantly face death and blood and so on. And they have to maintain equilibrium up here so that they can just get on and do their job. It's very, very hard to do. And it's almost like an insolvable problem, because once somebody draws blood from someone else, the natural reaction, it's almost impossible to switch it off. The natural reaction is to take blood from the other. War breeds war. Love breeds love. You choose. The Ukraine war it's almost spectacular in the way it's displaying such simplistic, like, two-sided scenarios, good versus evil. Now, we all know that there are some shadowy sides to the Ukraine. It's one of the most corrupt places on earth, but they really, really wanted to clean up. But they need help. They can't do it on their own. They were begging, but I'm sorry. I need to stop talking about that stuff. I'm getting in trouble, okay? Yeah, she was a little bit sick to work, but also the mandates wouldn't allow her back again. I don't know whether she didn't have the injections or whatever it was, but it ended up that she couldn't go back to work. I wish Precious Moments would show up here tonight, but I don't know if her phone's working or her tablet where she can watch the show, so I have no idea what's going on. I don't really know how to help directly. I'm not in such a strong position to do that myself, otherwise I would, obviously. Anyway, let me go over here for a second. It looks like we've only got... Jeffrey said, "Oh, I've almost joined the military 18. I'm glad I'm flat-footed and have a disability, so they denied me." That's interesting too, isn't it? Hold on. My father actually happened to be flat-footed, but he was accepted into the military, but he didn't do frontline combat. My father did a lot of backup support near the front lines, but he was kind of an intelligent man, and so they put him onto logistics and intelligence and weather, back away from the front lines. So he did get accepted into the military, even though he was flat-footed. Frankly, I think they just needed him. There we go. Cheers, everyone. All right, so right now, tonight, we don't have any bookings except for Tina. So I'm just going to give Tina her solitary post-it note. Now, if anybody wants a reading, I can handle a few more if anyone's interested. I'll put that over here for now. In case there are folks watching who've never done this before, I kind of have to do the repeat the message. Hope you don't mind, people. So, also, where was I saying? Okay, let me do this quickly. Okay, to promote the TL channel a little bit and Sunday Night Live mini readings by donation. If anyone's watching out there, pretty much everybody I see here on the chat, I know we've met each other before. But in case there's someone out there who's not familiar, but you're curious, if you want a reading and you want to do the donation, and get a reading, there's basically 3 ways you can donate. Number 1, you can go to my email over here and send PayPal. That's, of course, if you have PayPal already. This is my email, a little book about at yahoo.com. You can send PayPal money right there. There's another way you can donate, and that is over here. For example, if you've got another device or a tab or a browser or another page you can open up, you can go to terralumination.com, click the donate page, click the donate button, and the payment processor comes up right there. Swipe your card and so on. And the other way is actually over in the chat area where people chat. Right underneath the chat, if you look closely, there's a little box. There's a little round face. There's a box with a $sign, and there's a box with a graph. Click the $sign box, and that will come up as a super chat. You put the money in there. It shows up as a payment processor on your screen. It's real time, and it shows up here in the chat, and you get your reading that way. Okay? So there's 3 different ways. PayPal directly here, terralumination.com donate page, or super chat through YouTube. That's it. All right, let's have a look, folks. Okay, so, all right, I think what I'll do is I'll put this aside, and we'll get on with your reading, okay, Tina? Tina, if you've got something specific, put one word in the chat or something, and we'll kind of go at it that way. Otherwise, if you want a complete random free-form blind reading, we can do that too. It's up to you. I'm just going to put this aside over here. Put this aside over here. Let's there we go. All right. All right, so let's bless this whole deck. Bless the whole deck and the people who make these things and the artists who design them, from many years ago, and the reinterpretations into modern time. Bless the factory. Bless the original stories and how it all came into being. It's quite miraculous, really, when you think about the tarot and what it does and how it does it. It's amazing. Oh, Tina wants a message about peace for Ukraine. Well, thank you. Thank you, Tina. Honestly, it never occurred to me, but it's an absolutely perfect topic. Alright, so I don't do reversals, and I'm not going to do anything like that right now. Some of you know I used to have a very active channel, 40 videos per month, lots of readings, shows, private events, lucky draws, all sorts of things. And it's been difficult to... I wasn't able to keep it going for various reasons. Hey Jeffrey, I don't know if you noticed, but on YouTube there are people, I think including Mike Tyson, I think there are people who are now actively selling and marketing and promoting, psychedelic mushrooms online, right there on YouTube, just like you could see an advertisement for, stress, or how to make more money, or advertisements about how to do more crypto, or advertisements about how to get the best vegetarian blender, or the best new toothpaste, or the best new earwax remover, whatever it is. Yeah, can you imagine mushrooms? There you go. Anyway, let's bless every single card in this deck. Let's bless the lights and cameras, software, electricity. We're very lucky here. I am transmitting from Las Vegas. We still have electricity, water, power, sanitation, plumbing, telecommunications. We got it all, okay? Got it all here. Oh, let's have a look. Peace for Ukraine. Well, it's interesting when you put it that way, Tina, because peace for Ukraine is almost like saying peace for the world, because the battleground for peace is actually Ukraine right now. That's the actual battleground. And it's amazing how so many aspects of human life today pivot around the outcome of this war. Let's say the war goes really badly for Ukraine. Okay? What's that going to look like on the global stage? It's going to be a very, very dark, ugly, shadowy story. What happens if the war goes really well for Ukraine? Perhaps that will usher in a new era of freedom for humanity. I don't know. But Ukraine is the actual battleground where it is, let's say, where they're working it out. In some ways, it's almost like a meeting place. You know, when people in day-to-day life, a lot of things happen in day-to-day life and activity where you don't actually have to be face-to-face with a certain person or a certain group or a certain company or whatever. A lot of things happen by remote, by phone calls, by emails, by Zooms and everything like that. But there are a lot of things that also have to happen face-to-face, like certain high-level government meetings, or going into a restaurant and ordering food and sitting down at a table. That's a face-to-face thing. Or going into a court of law and deciding a situation like a divorce or a trust or something like that. These are face-to-face things. And Ukraine, the way I see it, Ukraine is the face-to-face situation where the land that we call Ukraine is the battleground, and what we're seeing is the face of good and the face of evil. Now, of course, the face of evil believes that they are the face of good, and the face of good is also heavily tarnished by what we call evil. So things can get very shadowy, but essentially, in terms of global sentiment right now, what we're seeing is, in really simplistic terms, is good versus evil. A lot of people have been using that expression. A lot of people have been apologizing for using that expression because it sounds so extremely simplistic and very naive. And yes, in some ways it is. But on the other hand, that's literally what is happening. There are two entities. An entity that represents the darkest, most shadow and loveless face of humanity, facing off with another group of humanity that is displaying all the characteristics of compassion and the desire to survive and claim their freedom and claim their rights. Okay? Let's see. Sorry for my spelling. Bobby Olmsted. Creepy evil old man. Bobby, what's going on? Bobby, con man, low life. I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find a few buttons to... give me a second, Bobby. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Bobby, I'm not very comfortable with what you do. I had to click a button that blocks all your stuff from coming on. The chat, I'm sorry. Okay, it's all deleted. So everything, dear Bobby, if you're still listening, everything that you're typing is being blocked and deleted. Okay? I don't know if you're a bad guy or a good guy. You don't seem very nice to me. Okay? Alright, let me go back over here. I've still got to do Tina's reading, okay? Alright. Yeah. So, it's almost like it's very Shakespearean right now. We're dealing with something that is affecting the whole of planet Earth, and the stage is Ukraine. That is where the staging is happening. And everybody in the world can watch. Do you remember, do any of you guys remember learning about Shakespeare? And they had the original theater where Shakespeare did his original plays in Stratford-on-Avon in England. Okay? How did you do that, Bobby? Bobby, and I'm back instantly. Oh, maybe you've got some techie genius ways to do that. I don't know. You can't block me. Oh, dear. What am I going to do? How am I supposed to get rid of you? Remove. Or pin the message. I'm going to try and put remove. Oh, my God. You're going to suck up the whole of this show, aren't you? Bobby, is there any way you'd be willing to just nuke yourself, please? You've hacked me. Yes, you have hacked me. How do you do that, Bobby? How did you do that? You're going to ruin the whole frickin' show. Okay, I'm just going to shut it down. Sorry. Goodbye. I don't put up with this shit. Hey, if there's anybody out there willing to be a moderator, who's out there? Adam, I'm going to add a moderator. It might be Jeffrey. If you're interested in being a moderator, I know it takes time and energy, but any time that Bobby comes in and does his little perverted games, would you please help me by just deleting everything? There are probably some buttons you can press. I don't know. Bobby's obviously very proud of his status as an internet troll. Apparently the channel got hacked. Yeah, well, that's what Bobby's claiming. Okay. Thank you, Jeffrey. There, thank you for giving me some breathing space. So that'll give us back. Okay, so sorry, Tina, we've got a bit of interference there. And Jeffrey just hacked Bobby out of the storyline for 300 seconds. So Jeffrey, in about 250 seconds, you're probably going to have to hack Bobby again. Be prepared to use extreme violence. Okay? Just be utterly ruthless. The minute he pops his head up, just cut it off, okay? Bobby is a little pest. It's like a fly. Bobby is like a little, I don't know. What? I can't think of a kind word. Okay, here we go. Anyway, Tina, here we go. Let's see what we can do. Thanks, Jeffrey. I mean, still hang out, obviously, and enjoy the show as much as you can. Look there, he's back. Okay. I order you to stop blocking me immediately. Alright, so somehow or other, Bobby knows how to get around the YouTube blah, blah. Okay, this is really, really distracting. Sorry, I'm finding it very difficult to concentrate. Thank you, Bobby. You're doing a great job. You're actually doing a great job of being an asshole. You're obviously very proud of this. I feel sorry for you. I don't know what else to say. I'll probably just end up having to shut the show down. I don't know. Sorry, Jeffrey. I'm going to see who else is... Maybe I'll have to recruit everybody who's here legitimately on the show as a moderator. I don't know if that'll help. This is just boring. Sorry, I'm just going to shut this down. I'm not going to play with your stupid game. I'm going away. Bye-bye. Alright. I don't know what it is. I don't know why people behave that way, but they do. Some people really, they get off on it. Thanks, Jeffrey. I'm going to put Necessary Truth as a moderator, too. Okay. Oh, play a song, huh? Okay, I will. I'll just play a little song. It's called Circle of Love. How about that? Now, I do have a little song. It's called Circle of Love. And it's struggling to show up on my computer. It's not working, people. It's not working. Why will not my MP3? Okay. There it is. Try this. Let's see what happens.
Message from angels above. Come together in a circle of love. Put down your weapons and unload your guns. Come together in a circle of love. Yeah. La da 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 da. La 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 la. La da 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 da. Going deaf from explosions, screaming babies everywhere. Their blood blood is flowing to the oceans. Our hearts are numb from trying to care, trying to care. I got this message from angels above. Come together in a circle of love. Put down your weapons and unload your guns. Come together in a circle of love. Yeah. La da 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 da. La 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 la. La da 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 da. Soon, when the smoke and dust is lifted, and all the rubble has been cleared, and all the bodies will be sifted, their ghosts will walk around for years and years, yeah. I got this message from angels above. Come together in a circle of love. Put down your weapons and unload your guns. Come together in a circle of love, yeah. La da 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 da. Message from angels above. Come together in a circle of love. Put down your weapons and unload your guns. Come together in a circle of love. Yeah. Da 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 da. La 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 la. La da 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 da.
There you go. So I did what you recommended. I played a song. There we go. It's going to be one of those nights, I guess. Thank you, Jeffrey and Necessary Truth. Thank you so much for helping out, okay? Yeah, Ah, boy. Alright, Tina, so I'm just going to do work over here. What about for peace in Ukraine? Let's have a look, okay, Tina? Let's see what's going on there. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't want to mess with Bubba. What you doing, Bubba? Okay. Sorry, Tina, this seems to be taking time. Okay, it's okay. I want to hear the Ukraine reading. Me too. I want to hear the Ukraine reading too. I'm as curious as you guys. Look who just showed up. It's funny how he shows up at these moments of critical timing. Bubba, I love you very much. But I gotta do a reading for Tina. Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna do that again. I already did a cut, but I'm gonna do it again. Little Bubba wanted some attention. I understand. I have no idea what's coming. I truly don't. I really don't. Oh boy. Okay. All right, let's have a look here. Oh, thank you, Tina. I will be definitely checking in on that one. Thank you so much. Okay. I have to be careful, like most people with this. You don't want to overdose on this stuff because it'll make you very sick if you're not careful. All right, let's have a look here. What kind of messages do we have regarding the Ukraine situation? Thank you, Tina, for sponsoring this. Here's the situation, here's the challenges, and here's how we're going to handle it. Let's look at the surrounding influences. Of course, I will defer to the planets here. Hangman. Okay. Well, with this hangman energy, to me, it feels it's very, very... It's like the whole of humanity is being held in a bind, held in such a way that it's like it's almost impossible to foretell any kind of outcome right now, because everything is so incredibly evenly matched. I don't know if any of you have noticed. I mean, some of us are more interested in watching this story than others, but we're at a point of like an impasse where the bad guys, okay, Vladimir, the bad guy. Remember, it's interesting how there's Vladimir Putin, and he represents the bad guy, and then there's Vladimir Zelensky, and he represents the good guy. So it's Vladimir meets Vladimir, and these are the two main characters acting out on this stage for the whole of humanity. And so with the Hanged Man here, we're left in a state of suspension where, and it's art. To me, it feels it's artificial, and it's inevitable. Where the bad Vladimir doesn't really know what to do. The good Vladimir knows what to do, but can't do it. The bad Vladimir is just going to ratchet up what bad people do. Okay, they're just going to, oh, Precious, okay. Hang in, Precious. We're just starting the reading here. So, bad Vlad is taking it to the next level, which is basically like the energy of a thug. Thug, thug, thug. We're just going to keep pounding and pounding and pounding. They're calling it a war of attrition. What is a war of attrition? A war of attrition is where you get to a point where both sides have realized that it's going to be very difficult for me to win. It's going to be very difficult for Vlad to just knock out the other Vlad. And it's also very difficult for Vlad the good to knock out Vlad the bad. So you end up in what they call a war of attrition, where the fighters go at it until they are exhausted. This one keeps going by supplying more arms, more munitions, more soldiers, more pressure, more bombs, more missiles, more killing, more slaughter of civilians. They're deliberately going after the civilians to create outrage on the world stage, to the point where the good Vlad screams loud enough and begs enough where, like Tina was saying, they're basically screaming, come on, all you other so-called good guys, why aren't you helping me, the good guy? I'm Vlad the good. You're supposedly all good guys. You're on the side of humanity, freedom, rights. You represent NATO and the European Union and all the banks and America and freedom and open markets and open capitalism. Why aren't you not helping me more? Why are you not willing to get blood on your hands like I have to do? So that's Vlad the good. And there, Vlad the Bad is like, okay, I can see what's happening here. I'm just going to have to play dirty. So Vlad the Bad is playing dirty. He doesn't really care if anyone thinks he's evil or nasty, because he's deliberately targeting civilians to create outrage and pain and suffering, and to destroy the energy of hope, to destroy the energy of love, because it can be very effective in war. So that's what he's doing. It's just warfare, okay? So we're at that point where it's suspended animation. Okay, it's almost like the world is witnessing this state of suspended animation right now. Good Vlad versus bad Vlad, and both sides are deeply entrenched in an untractable, unwinnable situation. Good Vlad cannot win without the help of the so-called good guys in the West. Vlad the Bad can't really win outright, because good Vlad has already mustered so much support that it's made it impossible for bad Vlad to win the war the way he wanted to win it. So bad Vlad is having to become evil Vlad. Evil Vlad, okay? And so they're just going at it, okay? But it is a state of suspended animation, and this is going to continue. This is going to roll on and roll on and roll on. And the point about the suspended animation energy is that this is almost like what happens in a a trauma situation. Okay, Tina, I'm going over here because I want to express it like, for whatever reason, when I was a younger lad, I encountered a lot of violence that came to me. I have never sought out violence, but for some reason, I was heavily targeted for on and on and on. Random or whatever it is. I was targeted. And what happens when you get into an actual encounter where there's a potential blood at stake or violence, a violent encounter where the enemy decides that they want to take out their perceived enemy, which would be me, they go at it to try and disable you, kill you, take you down, draw blood, make you bleed out, whatever it is. And when human beings get into these situations, we go into a form of suspended animation where time seems to stop, because the only thing that counts in those 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 seconds, 2 minutes, where you're exposed to the potential of your own death, time, the concept and the feeling of time changes dramatically. What's very, very interesting about bad things is that it can take years to lead up to a bad thing. But when the bad thing happens, it happens extremely quickly. That's what we're seeing with Ukraine. That's what typically happens in violent encounters. You could have two people like going, screw you, screw you, screw you. Like a bar fight or something. Screw you, screw you. And then somebody says, you know what, screw you. Boff! And within a nanosecond, everything changes because someone decided to use simple, raw, pure violence. And when you reach that point, whether it's two jerks in a bar deciding they're just going to punch each other out, or whether it is globalized warfare enacted on the stage of Ukraine, that's what has happened. It's like, okay? You didn't even see it coming. Of course, we knew the buildup was there, but when it actually happens, when the moment of impact occurs, it sets everyone and everything involved in the conflict into a state of like very warped, suspended animation. It's like, I don't know if any of you have ever been in very severe car crashes where you know you're very close to death and you start to see your whole life flashing in front of you, and Even though a car crash typically only takes about 5 or 10 seconds, it feels like it goes on for hours, okay? So that's what I'm talking about. So, what I'm seeing here, Tina, is with the hangman here, I'm seeing for humanity and for Ukraine specifically is that it's very tragic because they are locked in a state of suspended animation exactly in the ways that I just tried to describe from my own experiences about what happens in essentially Mortal Kombat, okay? So, the situation itself on the ground, let's have a look. Okay, well, with the Knight of Cups, to me this looks like, I know this is going to sound simplistic, Tina, but everything ultimately, universally favors Ukraine and the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians are being fueled by love. I know it sounds strange because they are expressing extreme violence. The Ukrainian fighters right now are actively killing Russian soldiers. They are destroying Russian weapons, arms, tanks, supply chains, all of that. They're doing it. But again, what happens with human behavior? They're doing it in the name of love. And they are proceeding step by step in the name of love. Mostly because they have to. They are doing it knowing that there is bloodshed. The Ukrainians know, the Ukrainian fighters are extremely aware that they are extinguishing the lives of a lot of Russian soldiers who are actually very naive and innocent and who never wanted to be there in the first place. They are aware, the Ukrainian fighters are aware of that. And I guarantee that the Ukrainian fighters, they might rejoice in the moment, but deep down they know that this is very tragic and sad and painful for them at the level of the soul. Because none of these Ukrainian fighters really want to do what they're doing. They don't want to go around killing Russian soldiers. But they're doing it because they feel that they have to in order to maintain their, let's say, their sense of dignity, their sense of self, in a way that we, the people, would recognize as symbolic or symbolizing love. It's like it is a war of love. Good versus evil. I would say right now, literally, this Knight of Cups represents Ukraine as the fighting for the good, okay? Literally fighting for the good. And it's very sad and very tragic because if you want to look at this card very closely, just imagine that this fighter and this horse and all the surrounding territories are now drenched in blood. But they keep going anyway because they have to. They know that they have to because they know that this war is symbolic for the whole of humanity. In other words, the Ukrainian fighters, they're not just fighting for themselves. They're fighting for humanity. They are literally freedom fighters for humanity. They are shrouding themselves in armory and I would say, the healing power of love. I know it's disgusting because I personally feel that the Ukrainians are not proud of the idea that they're having to do the most despicable things that they have to do, which is killing other humans, in particular Russians. The Ukrainian soldiers, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, okay, where it is that hard. It's necessary truth. So Tina, what I was suggesting is like, so this whole Ukraine story is bringing it into stark awareness for the whole of humanity, for every population on earth, because this war is affecting every population on earth. This war is, the way it's affecting other populations is through the currency war. In other words, the sanctions, the blockades on oil and gas, the shocking inflation that's happening all across the world, and the ensuing shortages in fertilizer and wheat and raw materials. The biggest problem, Love Triber pointed this out a long time ago, is the fertilizer, because Russia is one of them. It provides 80% of the world's fertilizer. Okay, without the fertilizer, you can't grow the wheat, the soy, the rice, and all of that. Okay, and without the corn, you can't feed the cows, because these days in America on the factory farms, they force the cows to eat corn. Normally they would eat grass, of course. But anyway, it's kind of a chain reaction. We're witnessing it right now. So people in Bangladesh, in the Congo, in Northern Africa, in Eastern Africa, in the Middle East, in Central and South America, in Canada, in China, Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, they are all being impacted right now in real time by this war. Right now in real time. So I would say you can legitimately say, I feel it's okay for me to say that Ukraine and the Ukrainian fighters are representing so-called the good guys. Hello, Heather. Yeah, Jeffrey, you made a very good point there. Well, those soldiers it's a very, very dark, murky subject, the whole Afghanistan, Middle East war stuff, because it's all about oil and corruption. But anyway, let's get back to Ukraine. Necessary Truth just mentioned something. Why can't everybody be kind? Exactly, Jill. Is it that hard? Well, the way I see it, it's not a lot of. There's not a lot of. For some people, there's not a lot of profit in kindness. How can you profit from kindness? Kindness is just generosity, where you give for the sake of giving, where you love for the sake of loving. You're not checking your accounts or your checkbook. So what's the situation? What's the problems here back? Okay, with the 7 of Cups here, my feeling is that not only for Ukraine, but for the whole world, we, the people, including Vlad the Bad, are lost in the fog of war. It's to the point of insanity. There are plenty of news reports and very legitimate news sources that are now openly stating that Vlad the Bad is actually insane. He's actually crossed a line where he could be, like if he was an individual, like in a school or a town or a city, when he was like randomly attacking people or shooting people and killing people, he would be arrested and put in prison for insanity, mentally insane, and that would be his defense in court. It's because he's completely lost it. Vlad the Bad has completely lost it. He's doing it in a very grandiose, extremely pompous manner, the way the same bad guy would justify their behavior. In other words, I have to do this. It is my God-given duty as Vlad the Bad to reclaim my former glory as myself. Okay? The rest of the world can look on and say, Vlad the Bad, you're out of your frickin' mind. You're literally, certifiably insane. The problem is that he's at the very, very top of the financial empire. And it's very, very hard for we the people to take down someone who has so much power, so much control, and so much money. Now, at the same time, the fog of war, the insanity, is infecting the rest of the world in this state of suspended animation, where we the people, the Ukrainian people themselves, are basically dissociating, and they are witnessing and sensing and feeling insanity. Real, live, genuine insanity. If you look at some of the reports that are going on out there, there are, look at it this way, there are dozens, if not hundreds of reports coming out of Ukraine where it's very obvious when you get these very courageous news reporters going deep into the battlefields, and they're getting stories. Okay, everything just got shut down. Looks like I really did get hacked. I don't know if anybody can see me out there, but over here everything has gone dark. I'm going to go over to the man, I'll try it again. It's very sad. Oh boy. So, let's have a look. Okay, I don't know what happened there, and maybe that troll knocked me out or something, but the whole of my stream got shut down. I'm going to go over here for a second. I can still hear it. Now I'm frozen. Yes, I was frozen. I was frozen out. It looks like everything is still streaming, and I got reconnected. You can hear me. Okay. Well, this has happened before, and I can't prove anything, but my channel has been attacked so many times, it's just kind of like nausea. It's like it gets really boring after a while. What can you do? I mean, I'm harmless. Literally. Why would anybody want to shut down my channel? Why would they be so scared of what I'm saying or thinking or talking about? You know? So the screen froze because it's still frozen right now. It's actually, let me go over here. Okie dokie. So I have to, it looks like I have to reload the Zoom. I have to reload something. Stay there, people. Please don't go away. The sound is still good, but I have to reload something here. And then start from scratch again over here. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to try and reload something. Give me a second, please. And let's see if we can do this. Alright, I'll tuck this over here. Sorry, I'm trying to talk myself through the process of trying to salvage the show tonight. Trying to salvage the live stream at all. Okay, so let's have a look. Right now, we are at the stage. And with any luck, we're back in the fish tank. Okay, we're good. Phew! Well, honestly, I can't prove any of this stuff, but there's absolutely no technical reason why what I'm doing here would have shut down from this end. So I think someone's just trying to like make my life miserable and try to tarnish the channel and make it very hard for TL to broadcast, okay? Sound and visuals are working. Okay, that's good. So let's go back over here. Sometimes, like in my imagination, I'm thinking like, there are the YouTube monitors and the sensors. They're watching tens of thousands of channels, trying to censor the channels for the good stuff, and shut down anything that goes against the algorithm. Ooh. But anyway, I learned at the end of 2018, years ago, I learned what happens behind the scenes. Anyway, let's see if I can keep the reading going without getting shut down again. So, what I was trying to say here with the Seven of Cups is that the problem is everybody on planet Earth is now lost in what they call the fog of war. The fog of war is a very real phenomenon that happens when a human being loses their bearings. You start to become like a victim of your own feelings, your own biological senses, your own belief systems, to the point where you really do not own yourself anymore. You're literally operating as a wild animal facing life or death. Okay? And anything like rationality goes out the window, and it turns into insanity. Literally insanity. And that's the problem. And when I look at the charts, look at it this way. Okay, let's look at it this way. The shadow side of all this energy here with the Pisces stuff, it's been going on for a month now, where the sun was in Pisces, it's now in Aries. The shadow side of this energy here astrologically is insanity. Insanity, it would be the collapse of the human soul, the human heart, the human consciousness into this primitive energy of action-reaction. You hurt me, I hurt you. If I hurt you, then you hurt me, and everything becomes insane, where nobody cares about the long-term outcome of their behavior. It's insanity. So right now, the problem is globalized insanity. But especially for the people who are there on the battlefront, it's creating that sensation of, this is insane. It really, just imagine being, there's bad Vlad and good Vlad, and then there's the fighters on the ground, and they're realizing, like, my God, we are actually living today in real time in a modern world where it's potentially possible to have peace by choice, by decision. And yet here we are in this grotesque display of the very worst of human behavior. And then how do we deal with that? The Vlad versus Vlad is just, it's the storyline for the whole of humanity right now. So how are we going to deal with this going forward? Okay, well, it's pretty epic. Obviously, it's about the strength card. And again, this is like Tina bought this for Ukraine. And the way I see it is the Ukrainian fighters, including the volunteer fighters who are actually right there on the battlefront with weapons and facing death every day, every minute. They're already doing it. They're already tapping into their full strength. But the understanding is that this war is not just about defeating bad Vlad. Let's say the whole idea here, the idealized situation would be that good Vlad beats out bad Vlad. And the only way that can happen is with brute force. Complete, utter, raw, brute force. The reason I say that is because bad Vlad is operating purely on brute force. That's the only thing he respects and understands. The only way you can stop bad Vlad is with brute force. So in other words, good Vlad has to become as bad Vlad. And that is what is so tragic and painful about this situation. It's not that way just for Ukraine. It's just that nobody wants to admit it, especially in the administration of the United States. They are not willing to understand the story as it really, really is. Okay? The real situation is that the bad guys have to be dealt with using strength. Okay, strength comes in many, many forms. Spiritual strength, emotional, psychological, physical, arms, okay? Yes, I will do that, Tina. Thank you very much. I just saw that. And when I see this angelic energy here, to me it's an indication that there is a purpose for all of this, and it is for humanity. And sadly, it is a sacrificial thing here. Ukraine is literally has become the epicenter of learning for humanity right now at this very moment in time. And it's also interesting geographically when you look at a traditional map of Earth like I use here. It's very interesting because even though it's in the northern hemisphere, the Ukraine is at the epicenter of human populations. This population here and this population here and a lot of these populations here are built on totalitarian regimes that worship violence, and they use violence as their day-to-day method of exerting power. We, over here, and a bunch of people here and here, we are perfectly equipped to be as equally as violent, in fact, a lot more violent than these folks. But we don't do that deliberately, at least in theory. Shh, quiet. Shut up, TL. Be very careful. We exercise the right to defend ourselves and protect ourselves. So this population here, which is by far the most heavily defended population on Earth, if we wanted to, if our administration wanted to, we could just send planes over here and we would sort out the problem immediately. But again, what we're witnessing, do you see what I'm trying to illustrate here? Bad guys. Even India is accepting oil from Russia, so India is participating. India is sending a lot of money to Russia to get cheap oil discounted during the sanctions. Anyway, I'm stretching my storyline a little bit too far. Bad guys, good guys. We have done very despicable things. They have done very despicable things, okay? So anyway, the way I look at it going forward is that Ukraine is a stage. It is like an arena. It's like cage fighting. It's like a massive It's like what happens, when the whole world becomes aware that there's going to be a huge boxing match between A and B, and it goes worldwide. People are watching these incredible, UFC fights, these blood fights where people go to the end. A lot of it, of course, maybe it's manipulated, it's staged, it's theater, but it is still extremely violent, and people do get hurt. So right now, my feeling, the way I see it, is just like Ukraine is in a very sacrificial position of having, I would say, in a very spirit. I don't know of the astrology of Ukraine, okay, but I wouldn't be surprised if you looked into it. You would find a very Neptunian, Piscean, sacrificial aspect to their astrology, where it's now being activated. Somebody pressed a button. This is your moment, Ukraine. This is the time where, just like human beings, you recycle yourself and you adopt a new identity each lifetime. In this particular lifetime, Ukraine carries the identity of a sacrificial entity, where they are going through the actual ritual bloodbath on a global scale, and everyone else on the world is witnessing this, and we get to learn and observe, like, which side are you on? Because, okay, let me go back a minute over here, Tina. I'm going to pull the other cards in a minute. What has happened on the global scale is that even though, in words and gestures, everybody over here and over here has theoretically imposed these really tough sanctions over here, making it very difficult economically for these people and these people. Making it, there's a lot of innocent Russians whose lives are being destroyed right now because of this war. But we also have to understand that a lot of this is kind of a setup, because the people over here, the boss, the bad Vlad guy, really kind of set us up over here for a fall, because he knew that if he lured everybody over here and over here and over here to be intrinsically tied into his supplies of oil and gas and wheat and fertilizer, it would be very, very, very difficult for these people to switch off that supply. Because if we really, really, truly wanted to switch off the supplies and truly sanction Russia, it would also bring a lot of pain to Western Europe and to the United States and everywhere else on Earth. And the question is, how much pain are you willing to handle in order to fight for your rights and survive to maintain your freedom? So it is very much a spiritual journey here. It's almost in a very primitive way. Might makes right. And right now, all the might is on the side of Vlad the Bad. And so Vlad the Good is trying to muster all the strength and power possible in order to meet. So you have like a more equal match. At the moment, the match is very, very ugly, very dirty, very equal, because the strength of one side and the weakness of one side is being matched by the strength of one side and the weakness of one side. It would be very easy for good Vlad to prevail if some of the folks on the so-called West would basically support. But the way the cards are showing here, that's not going to happen in the near future, because we are all in the fog of war. Even the people who are heavily armed in Western Europe and the United States, all those people who could easily help Vlad the Good with weapons and more support, they're reluctant to do so because they realize, oh my God, that means we're going to be dragged into the war. That means we're going to get dirty. That means we're going to get blood on our hands. That means that I could get killed or I have to go out and kill somebody. So it's a scary thing, but that's part of the spiritual evolution for humanity. Someone's got to do it. We're doing it right now. Where are we going from? I'm going to tuck this all over here. So Tina, you asked, so I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to keep the Hanged Man down here, but I'm going to do something pretty radical. Over here. Hope you don't mind. Now I do these very quickly. I normally only do these in private, but I just want to see because we're looking forward here. Ten of Swords. The Lovers, and Three of Cups. Okay, so this is a very mixed reading, but Tina, the way the cards are presenting to me here personally, I've got the Ten of Swords followed by the Lovers, followed by the Three of Cups. What I'm sensing here is that sometime in the next few months we will reach a point of critical mass where the war of attrition is exhausted. In other words, the good guys can't do anymore, the bad guys can't do anymore, and then the war literally collapses on itself, okay? Where there's only so much pain that can be inflicted, and then it's like the siege energy that they're already talking about. The siege energy where you just drain the enemy of resources. No water, no food, no air, no room to move, no supplies, nothing, no weapons, no ammo. So both sides are trying to do that to each other. And in a war of attrition, it takes a long time, okay? I don't know if this might represent 10 days or 10 weeks or 10 months. But there will be a point where it reaches exhaustion, where Vlad the Bad, Vlad the Good, and all the other global entities that associate with the bad guys and the good guys, they reach a point of exhaustion. And it's at that point of exhaustion where the war is over, not because somebody wins or somebody wins, it's because there's nothing left. It's just deprivation, exhaustion, okay? And so you get to a point where everything that we talked about earlier in the reading brings humanity, not just Ukraine, but humanity into a point of critical mass. That humanity has to make very, very, very important, profound decisions about what are we going to do now for the future of mankind. How do we see you? How do you see me? I think the Lover's card here to me represents the kind of meeting places that you have, like the European Union, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the global empire, the leaders of all the empires. There will be some kind of gathering of leaders and decision makers, perhaps in Brussels, in Europe, or who knows where, Israel, Turkey, England, America, who knows where there would have to be a council of leaders who have to come to decisions. And they have to come to decisions that are good for humanity, which ultimately means that Vlad the Good has to prevail. And that becomes something to celebrate. Literally to celebrate. Now, this is the critical card for me here, Tina, the Ten of Swords. Are we looking at 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, or 10 years? Because this is a war of attrition. It is now turning into a war of attrition. short of actually going into full-on nuclear war, which would be globalized insanity. Of course, that is possible here. There are plenty of people who are already talking about globalized insanity, which would be nuclear warfare. The United States, literally, Tina, anybody who's watching, you have to understand, the United States has about 12 massive submarines that are armed up to the eyeballs with nuclear warheads that can be triggered off in seconds. And they can obliterate whole cities, whole countries in a matter of minutes or maybe hours. And that's fantastic if we had somewhere else to go. The problem is when you press that button, it's doom for humanity. So the whole concept of mutually assured destruction, MAD, is very real today as it was 40, 50, 60 years ago when they made these contracts between warring countries about nuclear warfare. The whole reason Russia is so heavily armed with nuclear power is because they can, and they figured out long ago that if they have the nuclear button, then they can destroy planet Earth if they want to. Now, my personal belief is that the United States has more advanced nuclear options, and so if it really comes to that, we could press a button. But the whole point is with MAD, it is mad, it is insane, because that degree of World War III is literally the end of humanity. And so now that we have this mad option, which never existed before Pluto was discovered. Ever since Pluto was discovered and atomic energy and nuclear weapons came into being, that's when everything changed on a global scale. Because that degree of power has never been, let's say, dealt with before on a global scale. But we're dealing with it now today. Because the United States, literally, we could just go and then humanity is gone in order to protect and defend ourselves. But you get to the point, again, it's insanity. Why would you do that? Why would anybody do that? Why would Vlad the Bad do that? Because he's pretty, he is at stage of borderline insanity. That's my personal belief. So you get to a point where humanity is forced through this really ugly, dirty war of attrition, which will take 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years to work itself out, where eventually the good guys and the bad guys have to come to some kind of equilibrium where very, 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 very difficult decisions are made in these congresses. Congress like the United Nations, the European Union, Washington, D.C., Parliament in London, and so on. Rome, Israel, these are the places where most of the top decisions are made. They have actual locations. And eventually, they're going to have to make decisions that are ultimately loving. Little Three of Cups. And you get to a point where humanity can celebrate. Good point, Tina. Russia and USA hits the red button at the same time. I guarantee we'll hit our button after the bad guys, but it doesn't make any difference at that point, does it? Because it's the obliteration of humanity. So humanity is meeting itself in the mirror. And Ukraine is the staging ground where this is happening. And we are witnesses. The rest of us, if anyone who's here watching this, or anyone's watching the story, or observing the story, or the war, or the battle, if you're not actually there on the ground with weapons and guns and defending Ukraine, then we are in a war by proxy. It's a proxy war. Basically, I personally am now at war with the bad guys because I feel like I am on the side of the good guys. And it sounds inane. It makes me feel like I'm almost as insane as what I described earlier. But in a way, it is that simple. Where do you want to be? Let's say you had a gun pointed at your head and you were also heavily and well armed. And you decide, like, I have a right, no one pushed me into this situation where I didn't want this. And so you have to make a decision. Are you willing to kill another human being so that you can live? Are you willing to kill another human being who's displaying a lot of bad behavior so that you can live and your buddies can live because you like to have a more peaceful life? It's a tough decision. But that decision is actually what is happening on the ground in Ukraine right now. There are a lot of fighters in Ukraine who were not fighters by choice. By profession. They're doing it. They're school teachers, doctors, nurses, truck drivers, whatever it is. They have taken up arms and weapons in order to defend and protect themselves. So the storyline extends to the rest of humanity. I do see a good outcome with this reading. Thank you, Tina, very much. But it does involve huge amounts of pain and suffering on both sides. And it will reach a point where it can't go any further. Either Ukraine collapses or Russia collapses or both fighters collapse in exhaustion. It's like a boxing match where they just keep going at it. They go at it until they both collapse. There you go. Yeah, I saw that one, Tina. They're trying to send messages to the Russian people about the Z-bodies like, dear Russian people, dear Russian population, you have to understand what's really, really going on here. I don't know if you saw the ridiculous parade by Vlad the Bad and how he paid a lot of actors and citizens to fill up a stadium with Russian flags to show, power. Anyway, I have a feeling I'm going to be shut down again any second if I'm not careful. So let's leave it at that. Tina, I hope this reading helped you because it's a tiny little reading, but in a way it applies to the whole of humanity. So you did everybody a favor by booking this reading here tonight. I don't think even if I would love to be able to earn a lot more donations, but I just don't see any point here tonight. This is a very exceptional evening. And you guys have been very generous in the past. And we will get by. We will survive, okay? So Tina, thank you again for this. I do see a good outcome, but it requires going through some brutally ugly and painful scenarios that will force humanity to make very tough decisions in a way that they've never had to do before. They've had something similar when they tried to wrap up World War I or World War II or the fall of the Roman Empire or the fall of the Austrian Empire or the Dutch Empire or the British Empire. You have to have meetings with the most powerful people at the top of the planet. What are we going to do? And then they have a meeting, they make their decisions. And the decision ultimately is good. Okay? So Tina, you're okay. I'm okay. Everybody here on the channel tonight, we're going to be okay. We did not have to shed blood. I'm not going to be shedding blood for this war. But there is a lot, I see a lot of pain still to come. I keep going back to the Ten of Swords here. To me, this looks like the critical card in the deck because we are dealing with war and weapons and death. And 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years. It's not 10 decades. All of this will be resolved between now and the end of Pluto and Aquarius. I see it as getting resolved before then. Well before then. But in the meantime, thank you, Tina. Thank you so much. Yes, ultimately, Tina, Russia will fall. That's just how it is. But I guarantee they're not going to go down without a fight. They started the fight and they are committed. They're going to go to the end. There's a lot of ego and pride involved here. Look at it. Look at this. To me, it's very, very simple. The only way this stops is when you use brute force, brute violence. And a lot of people don't want to do that, because when you are the person who has to either press a button or actually move the fist or shoot the bullet, you are extending violence, deadly violence. You literally, Bad Vlad is not going to go down without being taken down. Okay, he's just going to keep doing what he does. Ruthless, lawless, war of attrition until he is taken down. Did any of you guys... Ukraine joins NATO? Maybe. Ukraine joins the European Union? Maybe. All of those scenarios, okay? Maybe Putin falling. Maybe so. All of that is potentially out there. The point that I'm trying to make is that, I mean, it sounds like I'm just eating popcorn or potato chips watching like a fight, or, you know, a video game or something. I don't really do that. I don't watch UFC or wrestling things. I don't do any of that stuff. But realistically, honestly, because I feel I've been in war many lifetimes, but not this one. The only way this ends is when you exert deadly force against the enemy. You got to take them down. Did any of you guys see that movie with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson? It's about the story of Bonnie and Clyde, but instead of the story being told from the perspective of Bonnie and Clyde, it's the story as told from law enforcement. And from what I recall of the movie, what happened is that Bonnie and Clyde were they were completely insane, out of control, dizzy with lust and greed for the money and the power and the delicious sensation that comes with slaughtering anybody who comes in your way. Take the money and run. Woohoo! Whoa! Being a bank robber. Yay! Bonnie and Clyde lived in the very, very, very early days of the discovery of Pluto. And it's a classic Pluto type story. They went completely berserk for money and power and control. And in the end, what happened is all the states around Midwestern America where Bonnie and Clyde were doing all the robbing, all the leaders of each state were calling out, they were talking to each other, like, what are we going to do? Our legal system is not working. Our protocols that we have set up now, that we have in this peaceful country, called the United States, we're not allowed to just go out there and shoot the bad guys. It's not like a Western movie anymore. We have to capture the bad guys, and then we have to prove that they are guilty in a court of law, and then we can sentence them. But what actually happened is all the governors and the leaders, they said, you know what? We don't care anymore. We are going to have to ignore some of our peaceful, noble codes. And we're going to have to resort to extreme, deadly force to stop this happening. In other words, we're going to take them down. And so what they did, what the states did, they all convened, they decided, we need somebody. This is a true story, by the way. We need somebody who's willing to do what has to be done. And so they tracked down this old-fashioned lawman, played by Kevin Costner, who used to work in the old days where basically he's a gun for hire. You know, you want a bad guy? I'll go get your bad guy. But he's going to be dead. He's going to be a dead bad guy. So anyway, it became very contentious, but eventually the governors grouped around and said, you know what, Kevin, we're just going to hire you. Do whatever you do. Do whatever you have to do. Do however you do it. Get yourself an assistant. Take these bad guys down. We will grant you immunity in the courts so that you don't have to defend yourself for having taken down a criminal without proof or without having gone through the legal system. So that's what happened. It's a very interesting story, okay? So Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, they work like a team of two bloodhounds. They eventually track down Bonnie and Clyde, and when they know the vantage point where they're going to actually take down Bonnie and Clyde, Kevin has recruited an extra handful of local gunslingers. And they literally wait for the moment where Bonnie and Clyde are coming through a dirty, secret little side road trying to escape from their town. And Kevin and Woody walk into the middle of the street with guns facing directly to Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde are in their little car, and they slow down and they stop. And that's the crescendo of the movie. Bonnie and Clyde realizing that, wow, the lawmakers have decided to break their own laws. They're coming at us. They're coming at us to take us down. And so, cinematically, the way they did it, they brought the car closer and closer. Honestly necessary, I can't remember the name of it, but it had Woody Harrelson and Kevin Costner, and it's the story about taking down Bonnie and Clyde. It's a true story, how it really happened. I just don't remember the title. But anyway, what happens is, at the very end, Bonnie and Clyde are sitting there in the car, and they're loading up their guns. They are literally very quietly loading up their guns, getting ready to shoot out with Kevin and Woody. And then, because he's been given authority to do so, Kevin takes the first shot. And he just takes his old-fashioned Tommy gun and he just shoots at Bonnie and Clyde. And then within seconds, all of Kevin and Woody's team, they just pound Bonnie and Clyde with bullets from their Tommy guns. And because it's cinematic, Bonnie and Clyde are sitting there in their car, and you can see their bodies shaking and flying around as hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bullets enter the car, and then Bonnie and Clyde are dead. And the show is over. So Kevin and Woody take out the bodies, wrap them up, and take the bodies back into town, and the story is over. But that's how you take down the bad guy. Vlad the Bad is not going to go down unless you take him down. End of story. So how that's going to look politically across the world stage, with the United Nations, with NATO, with the United States, Western Europe, and every other country, I don't know what that's going to look like, because humanity has never been in this situation before. Never, never, never. It's brand new, okay? Cheers, everybody. On a lighter note, is anyone watching the Oscars tonight? Office Pool. Ain't necessary. Yeah, I worked in Hollywood for 20 years. I never really watched the Oscars because I never really cared. I wasn't that interested in all that stuff. What I liked was the actual production, the process of creativity, making the TV show, making the movie, doing my little part, whatever that was, production, technical, talent, or whatever you want to call it. That part of my life is more or less over right now. I get very nostalgic. But, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what's happening with the Oscars. I didn't even know it was happening tonight. Is it really happening? Wow. What a weird show, huh? I don't know about you guys. I think there's only a handful of us here. There was only, 6 or 8 people or something. There's only a few of us here. But I don't know about you. To me, it was a very rich and satisfying show because we just did one reading about this one topic. And I don't think we've ever done a show like this. I've never done anything like this. And I'm really glad we did it. Thank you for all your patience. Thank you for your generosity, Tina. Dear Precious Moments, if you're still watching, I wish I could help you. I don't know what to do. If anybody wants to help out Precious Moments, send her money. Do it through Zelle. Gregory Ross did that. He set an example, I think it was last week. I put a little donation in. A few other people put a donation. But honestly, Precious Moment, she needs as much money as she can get right now. We all do. I do too. Anyway, all right, so who's still here? Necessary, yeah. Tina here. Tina, by the way, you paid for this reading, okay? So Tina, you're very adept. We've done lots of readings together. You can reinterpret or, find a new storyline to the reading as much as you want. That happens frequently, especially when I do private readings with people. Some of the clients respond and go, "Hey, TL, do you think it's possible the story could look like ... And then I go, wow, you've got a good point there. I didn't feel it. I am your reader. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your generosity, but I'm just giving you my best impression. I'm just an instrument. I'm literally a transceiver. I receive energy, I transmit energy. Energy in, energy out. You could call it invisible friends, angels, loved ones from up above, sending messages inward. I have to do the translation like an app, and then it comes out at what you see as a tarot channel. Or, Precious, you don't have to do that. We're supposed to be sending you money. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What are we going to do? All right, let's tidy up here. Precious. Hello. Silly girl. Thank you, Precious. Seriously, Precious. Let's have a look. Let me go over here for a second. Yeah, so let's just leave this here for a moment. It's now recorded. It's officially, this is a visual. You can just take a timestamp of this moment. That's the reading. Planetary influences, the situation, the challenges, how we're going to handle it. and looking forward. What do we see here? When I do these 3 cards, I do them very rapidly, and I deeply trust myself going forward. Let's put all this away. I'm not sure what to do, Precious. You really didn't have to do that. I'm here. I'm trying to help raise money for you. I don't know how to do it exactly. All right, Precious. You put in a donation, you silly girl. It's okay. So you're going to get a little mini reading anyway. All right? That's it, folks. I feel very strange. It has been a very quirky evening by my standards. Let's bless this deck. Bless every single card. If I didn't do that earlier, bless the camera. Bless all the cameras, the lights, all the heavy-duty softwares, the technology, the wires, the cables, microphones, the internet, the platform, all of it. Thank you so much. I'm just going to do another tiny little bit here. No reversals. Okay, what little mini messages do we have here for Precious tonight? Oh, my email through Zelle. You may give it to those who feel the need. Okay, so let me see if I have to find your email first. Hold on there, Precious. Give me a second. So if anyone's out there, let me see if I can do this. Give me a second, Precious, and I'm going to type it in the chat here. But how do I do that? No, not that one. Let's have a look. Okay, I'm going to type this into the chat. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, give me a second, Precious. I'm just going to follow your prompts here. Okay. Is that right? Did I get that right? Yeah, I think I did it. Okay, so if anyone's watching, if anyone's feeling outrageously generous, and you want to send cash to Precious over there in Edmonton, Canada, with her freezing pipes, and she's homeless. She's living in the shelter with her 3 kids. I think it's a church shelter. They're taking care of her as best they can. But she's got to find shelter down the road long term. So this is the email for Precious. It says trinityann_2@hotmail.com. Okay? So so those of you who know how to operate the Zelle banking system, go for it. All right, in the meantime, you're going to get a little mini reading anyway, okay? All right, Precious? I'll just leave that sitting there on the screen. Thank you, Precious. Okay, so I got it right. I already did the blessing. Thank you very much. Let's do the reading. Let's do your little bit of, as you say, a little bit of wisdom. Ooh. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle it. Well, everybody knows your situation. It's really tough. It's really challenging right now. Doesn't seem fair. You know, the issues with mandates, issues with, you know, doesn't make any sense why you can't work and so on. Okay, so with the Page of Wands here, to me it looks like there's no reason to give up hope. Okay? You're figuring things out. You're learning things as you go. It's like, to me it feels like the energy is like, you may not feel this personally right now, precious moments, but in some ways, this is a really, really incredibly valuable learning experience for you. And if you really, really want to stretch it in terms of the spiritual meaning, it's almost like an adventure. I mean, chances are you wouldn't have deliberately sought out an adventure such as the one you're having right now, where, like you said, you're in a community shelter, so you're starting to realize, holy shit, there's other people who are just as badly off as I am. So there's you, and you got your 3 kids. And so you look around you, like, who else is there? Are there, like, elderly invalids? Are there, homeless people who are already homeless? Are there complete families? Are there complete individuals? Everybody there has a story. I think this Page of Wands relates very, very much to the experience that you're having right now in the shelter. So instead of becoming a victim or feeling like you're a victim, it looks like you're in a position where you could actually, what they call, seize the moment and treat this as a tremendous learning experience, to the point where, in order to, like, diminish the pain for the kids, you could make things more acceptable by asking them, or saying, like, let's look at this, kids, as an adventure, okay? It's a very unique adventure. You probably didn't want this adventure, but we're going to treat this thing as an adventure, and we are going to be just fine, okay? Now, here we go. What's the situation itself? Yes, it's very, very scary. Every day, you wake up thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Where's the boogeyman? How am I going to get through? Where's the food? Where am I going to poop and pee? Where am I going to shower and clean up? Does anybody hear me? How am I going to keep my phone going? And how am I going to get out of this in the end? Oh my God, I don't know. There's no sense of guidance. The only thing that's guiding you is like I would call it like the spookiness of the movie as it's unfolding, where you really don't know where it's going, but you don't have a choice. And to me, this amplifies the feeling of adventure even more. Yes, it's a scary adventure, but it's still an adventure. Okay? And that's the situation. Yes, it's very, very scary. Obviously, precious, you don't want to be in this situation. I'm sure your kids don't. However, this is how it is. And so, even though it's very frightening, it's still an adventure. And the show is not over by any means. What's the problem here? Okay, to me it feels like one of the difficulties and challenges that you have is, confronting the truth about your situation. And how do you communicate that, number one, to yourself? Like, how the uck did I get in this situation? Is it really my fault? Have I ended up becoming my own worst enemy? How on earth am I going to explain this to my kids? How am I going to communicate the truth, stand up for the truth against what would be like, obviously, would appear like the enemy? In other words, let's say you have to explain yourself to your kids. Or let's say you have to stand up for your rights in court when dealing with all the stuff to do with finding a new property or suing the landlord or whatever it is you have to do to protect yourself and defend yourself. And you end up in this really, really tricky, awkward situation. Oh my God. I'm left with no choice except having to call it out exactly as it is. Did I ask for this? No. Do I want this? No. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Am I, precious, going to be blamed for everything bad that's happening to me and myself and especially my kids? Are my kids going to hate me for what's happening right now, even though it's not my fault? All of those are very legitimate fears, okay? How do we deal with this going forward, okay, precious? Okay, to me it feels like with the Hierophant here, it's very, very, very much about stand your ground. It's very much about understanding that everything is exactly as it should be. Your situation is exactly what it is because it couldn't be anything else. And why is that so? It's because it can't be anything else. Your reality is your reality. It's a really stark reality. And not a lot of people would choose to be deliberately in that situation. But you're in a situation now where it's very, what's the word? Like you're up against it, almost with the legal system, with the status quo, where you're at the mercy of the status quo. You're at the mercy of your shelter and the conditions that the shelter provides. And you're at the mercy of the courts and the law. But with these page energies here, I see a lot of vital energy and strength inside of you. No matter how frightening it is, and no matter how, let's say, tough it might feel for you to have to face off with the hierarchy or the status quo or the courts. So, with this little reading, it's like forewarned is forearmed. Now that you know that there's a chance that you might encounter, let's say, serious challenges in a courtroom setting or in any way where you have to defend yourself and your rights and your freedom to protection and shelter for yourself and your kids, it means having to deal with authority figures. Now, I'm not saying that all authority figures are bad, because there are some authority figures who really want what is best for you, okay? So, the way forward to me, the way I see it for you, precious, the way forward is to understand that you are going to encounter some very serious situations with authority figures where you will have to stand your ground. And it's like what they say is law. And so, because you want things to work out for you in a way that is lawful and good, it's going to require that you, dear precious, you're going to have to really be on your best game. And the only way to do that is treat this whole thing as a scary adventure where you are the boss, you're going to have to be the boss, and you're going to have to stand your ground, and you're going to have to call out the truth exactly as it is, knowing that there are certain powers that might not really enjoy the truth. On the other hand, their job is to abide by the law and abide by the truth and administer the law according to truth and facts. Okay? So, to me, this looks, the real theme of the message here is it's time to get prepared. You're going to be okay, precious, but you're going to encounter authority figures. And you're going to have to go through all these hoops and loops, which might be very frightening for you. You can handle it, but you'd rather you didn't have to. It would be so much nicer if your life was something different right now. So yeah, it's scary. But when you know that you're going to be encountering authority figures who literally can determine how your life plays out going forward in the future, in the next few days, the next few weeks, the next few months. When you know that, then you don't have to be a victim of those authority figures. You can play to the truth and to order. Okay? You've got vitality and strength and knowledge and wisdom on your side, okay? Thank you, precious. I hope that helps you. It's actually, with the Hierophant here, it's almost as though you have to present yourself as an authority figure, as an equal to the authority figures that you will be encountering, okay? They will respect that, okay? It's about mutual respect. If you show fear, that's not going to help you. If you show contention or vitriol or bitterness or anger, that's not going to help you. Going forward, what really does work is standing your ground and understanding that you have every right to protect and defend yourself and be your own authority figure for your own position, just as they are authority figures for their position. They will respect that, okay? I hope that helps you, precious, all right? Yeah, it means a lot, okay, precious? It means you're going to have to really rise up into your power. I think you'll be all right. All right, I'm just going to clear this up. All right, I guess that's it, folks. That's pretty much it for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your kindness. Let's go over here and check out, okay? Okay, we've all been here for a while. Cheers. I don't have a lot of solutions for myself right now. I'm really working very hard up in here and in here to try and find a way to reconfigure my life so that what I would call the abundance comes into the flow. I mean, I'm already okay. I affirm to myself every day, I'm a very lucky man. I'm a very wealthy man. I'm a very happy man. And I'm a very blessed man. But let's take it up a notch, okay? I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much again, everybody. I'm sorry about the little disturbances. at halftime. Sorry about the crash. I don't know what to say. I'm just going to apologize. And I hope you forgive me, okay? So let's wrap it up here. I'm going to play it out on a sweet little tune. And then we can all have a nice evening, okay?